Back in my day, one of my heroes growing up was Vince Scully. And Vince Scully, back in the 1988 World Series, when Kirk Gibson hit a walk-off home run in the extra innings, had a famous quote. And that famous quote bears great fruit to what's happened in this season in the NFL and in this past week. And it goes, in the year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened, which is relating to John Harbaugh being fired, not Justin winning the pick challenge, because, it's been a bit. But welcome to episode 166 of the Sports Agents of Chaos, a bit of a stripped-down version and a bit of a sprint version here on the show. No Jerg tonight, so the two of us, myself, the Podfather, and Justin are going to be running the show. And yes, it's worth mentioning, it's worth repeating, and it was never truly in doubt after 3 or 4 consecutive perfect and near-perfect weeks in a row. Justin Zucker is finally joining the pantheon of the Pick Challenge champions. It's been a long time coming, and we're very proud to have you. Congratulations. The floor is yours, champ. What would you have to say to the people?
I didn't think it was ever going to happen at this rate. The way, you can only make it so many times and fail before you never make it again. I figured that maybe this was like the Buffalo Bills in the 90s, where maybe I'd be close a couple times and then I'd never have another shot. But we're here. Hey, listen, here's the 2 in a row.
Well, as you are aware, there's not been like the NFC East for 20 plus years. We have not had a repeat champion in our 4 years of doing this. So maybe you'll be the first, or maybe the kids will actually win it next year, and we'll all go to hell basically. But whatever it is. But a lot to talk about. In a very short period of time. Obviously, we had a lot of head coach firings and a lot of interesting names being thrown out. I will go through some of the names of those possible candidates for the new head coaching spots, of which there are 8, which is a real interesting number to have going into this offseason. And, of course, this weekend is the start of the playoffs and the wild card weekend here for the NFL, and what has truly been a wild season, to be sure. But before we do any of that, we're going to start off with a game that Jerg introduced last week. I'm taking it now, and I'm going to add a little spin to it now. Instead of keep 4, cut 4, it's keep 5, cut 5. Think of it as like your own personal Survivor Series challenge here, Justin. Basically, I've got 10 options here, and your choices are to keep the 5 of them or cut 5 of them. Basically making your own Survivor Series teams. And I gave you the option off the air of which 2 of the 2 that I was thinking of to do. You picked the fun one, which I think is a pretty fun one myself. So you're going to be keeping 5 and cutting 5 Heisman runner-ups that had better pro careers than the Heisman winners.
Okay.
It's a little tricky because let me tell you something. There's about 6 of them that I would keep in my list here.
Just to clarify, when I chose the fun one, the only things I knew about the 2 options were one was more topical and one was more fun.
Yes. So the more topical one I'll save for another time, but it was the best stints by an interim head coach in NFL history. Because there are some classic ones from back there. I mean, there's some classic ones. But, there was none of them were from this year, by the way, obviously, as you can clearly tell. But all right, so when you're ready, let's go. Keep 5, cut 5. Now, I'm going to start with a little clarification here. I'm only going to talk about the winner and the runner-up, because there were some seasons and some Heisman Trophy voting where 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place were larger names than the winners of the runner-up. But in these 10 years, the winner was a college somebody, let's say, although in a couple of cases, the winner had some pro success. But you could argue that the runner-up had a much better pro career, I would say. So let's start with the oldest one on this list here, Justin. The 1982 Heisman Trophy winner and runner-up. So, do you keep the runner-up in this one, or do you cut the runner-up? Let me tell you who they are.
Yeah, please.
I know. I know this is not blind. The winner of the 1982 Heisman Trophy was Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker had a decent career in the NFL.
Yeah.
Not stellar, not like his college days, but decent enough. The runner-up was John Elway. So, but again, keep this in mind. There's 9 other ones on this list that could be better than John Elway or worse than John Elway. So, when you put that in perspective, that's where it gets a little trickier.
It's hard to be better than John Elway, though.
There's going to be some
5 Super Bowls. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good one. So, are we you want to keep John Elway? Or you want to cut John Elway?
So I gotta make the decision now before I hear the rest. I gotta fly the whole thing blind.
Yeah, you gotta fly the whole thing
John
blind.
Elway. There's no way I'm
keeping John Elway.
Not keeping 3 Super Bowls.
Okay, I respect that. So you kept John Elway. That's fair. All right, let's move on to one that is, I would say, an interesting one to pick from. 2004, we're going to go with now. 2004, the Heisman Trophy winner was a left-handed quarterback from the University of Southern California who ended up taking a ballroom dancing course in his senior year to pass his classes and get the diploma, Matt Leinart. The runner-up in 2004 was a freshman running back, Boomer Sooner, Adrian Peterson.
See, now, you're starting with 2. I mean, one already is a Hall of Famer, but, like, another surefire Hall of Famer. At some point, I'm going to have to say no, but, like, I mean, you could make the argument that AP is one of the best to ever do it.
You could.
But
that's where it gets tricky because you don't know who's coming up next.
Yeah, but I feel like how could it be better than, like, if I'm making a team and you start with John Elway and Adrian Peterson, like, what are you really going to... It's interesting.
There's some doozies in here, and I'm kind of playing the order my own way. That way, I can kind of mix and match. Obviously, yeah.
All right, so I guess I'm going to keep AP. I feel like it's harder to find a good running back in this.
That's fair. All right, let's go to what I think is going to be your first cut. I'll give you a layup here. I think this will be your first cut.
Okay.
2006, the winning Heisman Trophy winner was Ohio State quarterback Troy Smith. Now, Troy Smith didn't really have that much success in pro ball. The runner-up was a little more successful, but I think when you compare it to a guy that you just had on there, maybe not so much. But still a name that I think we can talk about as a maybe what could have been. Darren McFadden.
Yeah, he was very good when he was on the field, but unfortunately injuries really derailed that career. You're right. That would be a cut for me.
Okay. I respect that.
If I'm comparing it to the names that we just went through,
yep,
that is a layup. That's a cut. I got to expect more names like the first 2.
Okay. That's fine. Let me throw out now the most recent one. This one has me kind of on the ropes here because these 2 careers are basically in lockstep with each other. 2015, the Heisman Trophy winner was Derrick Henry. The runner-up, Christian McCaffrey.
Can I take Derrick Henry?
You take Derrick Henry over C-Mac, yeah.
I could take the Heisman Trophy winner instead of the
if you're cutting the runner up, basically you're either saying that the Heisman Trophy winner is having a better career or there's better options.
This is tough. Yeah, I think I'm gonna cut.
I'm gonna cut.
And these are 2 players that I love very much so, but I feel like I took a running back already.
Yep.
And I'm gonna probably need a receiver. Obviously, there's not going to be any defensive players on here, but I feel like maybe there's some more Super Bowls in there that either of these players have a Super Bowl. So,
okay, all right. So far, for the record, you've kept Elway and Peterson. You've cut McFadden and McCaffrey. I can give you a third cut here because this one's pretty obvious, but it's interesting to think about how this one went down. 2001, the winner of the Heisman Trophy was Eric Crouch, who did absolutely nothing in the NFL. Runner-up had some success, went to a Super Bowl, did win it, Rex Grossman.
He did have one or two really good seasons.
He did.
Yeah, but if I'm not keeping McCaffrey, I'm not keeping Rex Grossman.
That's fine.
No offense, Rex.
My favorite Rex of the bunch, except for the dinosaur from Toy Story. Probably that's my number one, I would say. Yeah, I mean that's part of it too. I think that also adds to our even name that player. We have Rex Grossman and Darren McFadden. It's like guys like, oh yeah, you remember those guys, yeah. All right, so I've got now. You asked for a receiver. I'm going to give you a receiver. I think this is going to be an easy keep for you. 2003, the winner was Jason White out of Oklahoma. Interestingly, Leinart was like top 5 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is potentially a first ballot Hall of Famer this year alone. But let me tell you who was number 3 first. Eli Manning.
Okay.
Number 2, Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, that's a keep.
It's a keep? I mean, I agree. I agree with that one. I love the way Larry Fitzgerald played. I think it was great.
Absolutely.
But now it's going to get tricky. These last 4 are pretty tough. Because the runners-up are 4 of the pantheons of football lore. Let's start with 2011. The winner was Robert Griffin III. But the runner-up was Andrew Luck. Now, again, you have 2 keeps left, but you don't know who those are yet.
I'm a cut.
You're going to cut Andrew Luck?
Yeah, I'm gonna be confident with it. I'm a cut.
All right. That might come back to bite you, or it might come back to save you. But let's wind the clock back now to 1992.
The year I was born.
The year you were born. I think this one's going to be, again, it might be an easy keep for you, but remember, you don't know who the last 2 are. And if I go the way that I think you're going to go, you might be kicking yourself. But let's see. 1992, the winner was Miami quarterback Gino Torretta. The runner-up was a running back from San Diego State by the name of Marshall Faulk.
The greatest show on turf, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I have 2 keeps left, and how many spots do I have? How many more people did we go through?
You were down to the last 3. You have 2 keeps and 1 cut remaining.
All right, I'll keep Falk.
You'll keep Marshall Faulk?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the way that I thought you were going to go. And now I'm very interested to see where you're going to go from here. Let's wind it back even further now to 1983. Remember, you can only keep either this option or the next option. 1983, the winner was one of the best running backs in the 80s in college football from Nebraska, Mike Rozier. The runner-up from Brigham Young University, Steve Young.
I gotta take another 2 Super Bowls. I gotta keep it.
Ooh.
No?
Me thinks you might be regretting that when I tell you. I don't think I have to say the names. I can just tell you the year. Who you cut was the runner-up in 1997.
You overestimate my knowledge of Heisman runner-ups.
That was the year that Charles Woodson from Michigan won.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the year that Peyton Manning was the runner-up.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah. So
no
you kept.
Peyton
regrets?
probably have been the best quarterback on that, at least in the regular season.
Yeah.
But
all right.
I taking John Elway and Steve Young is not something I regret.
Well, yeah. I mean, I like I said, I thought that the 3 hardest ones on that list I thought were McCaffrey, Luck, and Manning, only because the way the game shakes out, you don't really know who's going to be where, all that sort of thing. But I think for this list, Elway, Peterson, Fitzgerald, Falk, and Young, if this were my 5 in backyard football, I'd be putting up 120 points every game.
Yeah,
I think so. So I can't hate on that. I think you did good. But again, I think that was better than the interim head coaches because I had to pull back into the ether to to figure that one out. It was a little trickier there, but we had some fun there, and I think that was good.
Yeah.
But now let's get to the not fun ones.
Oh, no.
Yes. Black Monday happened.
I feel like the rug pulled out from under me.
I know. Well, you did good. And aside from the 2 that we knew that were fired, there have been 6 other head coaches in the NFL that have been relieved of their duties. Also 1 GM, but the GMs we're not really going to talk too much about, I would say, because, it is what it is at this point. Giants and Titans fired their coaches mid-season. The interims that are there are probably not going to be sticking around. Mike McCoy only won 2 games, as I think did Mike Kafka. So the interims are not going to be sticking around. They'll be interviewed more than likely, but will be sticking around. However, there will be new head coaches in 6 other locations. 2 of them in the AFC North, 1 in the AFC East, 1 in the AFC West, 1 in the NFC West, and 1 in the NFC South. All teams that missed the postseason. Some a little more surprising than others when you consider the way their seasons ended and the way those coaches have built up their credibility. Some we kind of expected, and some I think that just nobody saw coming. We'll put it politely. Taking the Giants and the Titans to one side, Justin, let's start with one that maybe I want to gauge your opinion on this. Did you think Las Vegas? They have the number 1 overall pick. They were 3-14 this year. They had hired Pete Carroll after his run with the Seahawks kind of ended in a whimper. More like a wet blanket put over that tenure. But only 1 season in Las Vegas for Pete Carroll, and he has been shown the door. What are your thoughts?
I was a little surprised by it, to be honest. I mean, he's a coach that obviously has earned some sort of leeway. Their roster was pretty depleted at his time of taking the job. They did have some exciting players, but I think they expected more from the quarterback play. The offensive play calling was an issue throughout the year, and as an offensive guy, that's probably a problem. So, certainly wasn't expecting it. I can see why they might have done that, especially if they're really going to reset with the number 1 overall pick this year. Maybe you want to bring in your own guy that is going to be there long term. Pete Carroll's also a much older coach.
Yeah. And
maybe also had some sort of loyalty to his guy, Gino. So, it's a different world nowadays in the NFL. You really got to show why you are definitively the guy. And if you don't show it, one and done is not unheard of anymore. It's becoming more and more popular and more of an occurrence. So,
yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. Obviously, they got rid. They got rid of their offensive coordinator Chip Kelly as well during the season because it wasn't doing anything. I'm somewhat surprised, though, I guess, in a way that the GM John Spytek has kept his job, and also Patrick Graham, for whatever it's worth, is still listed as he finished the season as their D coordinator. Like you said, Crosby didn't play the last couple of games. Bowers would put on the IR. Jackson Powers-Johnson.
Before that, the team didn't perform before that.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing, but when your number 1 seed is in your division, and the Chargers had a great year as well, obviously it makes sense to clean house there.
Still also had to play the 3rd worst team in your division was the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that I would say that is true. So yeah, they have the number 1 overall pick. They have some pieces if they're keeping their guys around here. Where do you think the Raiders would go? Because obviously, there are a couple names on there that we'll talk about a little bit later that were former head coaches that are getting possibly mentioned as candidates and maybe interviewing with them. But I want to run through some of the coordinators that the Raiders are linked to. This is coming to us from ProFootballRumors.com. The Raiders already had scheduled an interview. They did an interview yesterday with Davis Webb, the quarterback's coach for the Broncos.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting name there. They're scheduled to interview Vance Joseph today, so probably they've already done that. He's the D coordinator for the Broncos. They're also interviewing Matt Nagy, the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs. And Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks, with another name mentioned who hasn't gotten any traction yet. I mean, I think for one reason or another, Brian Flores, the D coordinator for the Vikings. What's going on there? Like I said, there are a couple of names that are head coaches or former head coaches that were fired in circle. We'll talk with them a little bit later on when they get to the surprising hires. But of those names, Justin, does any of them kind of stand out to you as a bit of a surprise there?
To be available?
Yeah, or to be interviewed or to be considered.
Well, Davis Webb, considering he was playing last year, and I know they love these new player coaches, especially if you were a quarterback or a backup quarterback, so you prove that you understood the game. But like, he's just a guy that I would think you would want a little bit more coaching experience. I mean, he's fresh out of the league.
Yeah.
And while that does have a lot of positives, it's also an inexperienced thing. I mean, how do you lead a team of guys that you were just playing with? You know what I mean?
Right.
So leading them on the field and leading them on the sideline is a different thing. So that one surprised me a little bit. Not that he's incapable. I'm not saying that. It's a surprising hire for such a young guy with such little coaching experience. I will say I love Kubiak. I love Flores. I don't think he'll get a job, but because of the circumstances, unfortunately. But I do think he did a great job in Miami. He got a bum rap there, and he could be a very good coach in this league. I mean, he's proven it. So that'll be interesting to see as well.
Yeah. I'm surprised, but not really, with the Davis Webb interview, because obviously in division, he knows like how to play against the other teams, but also it's the exact opposite of what they had with Pete Carroll. It's zero experience versus a lifetime of experience, which is why I was kind of surprised to see guys like Matt Nagy and Vance Joseph on there, because they're former head coaches that are coordinators that got their shot. They got a shot, and Joseph didn't really have a lot of success. Nagy had one good year that Cody Parkey wants us not to remember for obvious reasons. But then the rest of it, he kind of, and to be honest with you, to me, Matt Nagy getting a coaching mention this cycle, and listen,
it feels early.
It is, and I hate to bring this up because I know it's gonna rain on your parade a little bit, but it kind of reminds me of the way that Aaron Glenn went out before he went into that head coaching cycle, because of the last game that he had with the Lions, they were torched by Jaden Daniels in the playoffs. So, but like,
thanks for reminding me.
But I know, but in a similar fashion, Matt Nagy's last offensive coordinator game, the Chiefs scored 11 points with a third string and fourth string quarterback whose names I can't even pronounce because no one knows who they are.
That's where you have to really give it some leeway, is that he was playing with a third and fourth string quarterback, guys that have never taken first team reps all year. Now all of a sudden are thrust into a position because not only did Mahomes get hurt, but so did Minshew. So as critical as you want to be, that's not great. That's not a great situation.
No, I agree. I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in Vegas. I mean, whoever it is going to have to really be in love with Fernando Mendoza, because all you got to do is look at what happened in Carolina with Frank Reich. He wanted C.J. Stroud. The ownership wanted Bryce Young. The ownership won out, and Reich wasn't there for the full season. That's the way you got to look at that. Speaking of teams that made questionable quarterback choices that cost their head coaches their jobs, let's go to Atlanta. I mean, that draft is going to be the microcosm of the Falcons in essence, because basically Raheem Morris and Fontenot's jobs were linked to the fact that at number 8, when they had just signed Kirk Cousins to that long-term-ish deal, they decided
$250 million was a crazy deal.
It was insane. But
you have a top 10 pick and you use it on a quarterback.
They used it on not just a quarterback, Michael Penix, a 25-year-old quarterback with massive injury history, a guy who in our mock draft went 70, I believe, picked by me to the Giants, in the third round, because I thought the Falcons could use secondary help. Little did I know that the Eagles were going to take up Quinion Mitchell, but neither here nor there. Raheem Morris is gone as the Falcons head coach, and Terry Fontenot's gone as the general manager, and also this is another point here, Rich McKay is gone as the CEO of the Falcons as well. That happened the day after Fontenot and Morris got fired. Morris is a guy who, went 20-25 with the Falcons. He started off, there in 2020 as the interim head coach during the COVID year, but then didn't get the job after Dan Quinn got fired. They went to Arthur Smith, a guy that you loved, and you've been on the record of saying you loved him as a head coach. It was great, wasn't he?
I was just saying, are we being sarcastic?
We're being very sarcastic.
I love Dan Quinn as a head coach.
Dan Quinn was great, but Arthur Smith was phenomenal. Come on now. But in all seriousness, Raheem Morris.
I always wondered why you had that Arthur Smith poster in your closet.
Oh, it's right there next to the Matt LaFleur one. Come on now, you know that.
And his shirt.
Someday soon, we're gonna get that. Maybe soon. You never know. But Raheem Morris finished up this stint back-to-back 8 and 9 seasons. That's fine.
A winless week. We're gonna get you an Arthur Smith poster, and you're required to hang it at least for a week.
Yeah. I mean, these walls are not blue and sad enough as it is. So, why not more stuff to make it sadder and bluer? Anyway, back to Raheem Morris, 8 and 9 in back-to-back seasons. Last year, they were second in the NFC South to Tampa. This year, they were third in the NFC South. But it just didn't seem like it clicked. It didn't seem like what he was doing was working out. And again, when you tie it to Penix and that draft choice, and it turned out to be such a problem, it's no wonder that Arthur Blank decided to give him the old heave-ho. But this is a Falcons team that, call it what it is, since the 28-3 in the Super Bowl, they have not been the same team. And rumors about Matt Ryan being linked to the president of football operations job here, the Falcons are in a total rebuild mode, Justin.
As they should be. They tried to, almost successfully, take a roster that was not devoid of talent, but definitely had a lot of big glaring holes, and try and pseudo-rebuild with a young head coach with no real head coaching experience. I mean, he had coaching experience. We loved Raheem Morris as a hire, but between the injuries and the lackluster play and inconsistencies from his big guys and his main guys, it never really clicked. You're right. I mean, they were swept by the Saints.
Yeah.
They were swept by the Panthers. They were swept by someone.
Yeah.
And then they were they lost to the Jets. One of those wins puts them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, those are bad teams. So
yep. I mean, this season alone, after they somehow beat the Bills on October 13th to go to 3-2, they then lost their next 5 games in a row. Dolphins, Niners, Patriots, and then back-to-back overtime games against the Colts and the Panthers. And then you're right, that Jets loss was a killer. So too was the Seahawks loss, where it was 37-9. They had no chance. Now, Atlanta did win their last 4 games in a row. So they did finish on a high note, but it wasn't enough to save Morris's job. The names that are out there that are mentioned are similar to the ones we talked about. Joseph and Kubiak are among the names that are there. A couple of other interesting ones. Anthony Weaver is going to be interviewed for the Falcons, the D coordinator for the Dolphins. And they requested an interview of Robert Saleh, the Niners D coordinator and former Jets head coach, which is interesting to me, if for no other reason than they have Jeff Ulbrich as their D coordinator in-house already. So trying to reunite the band again? I don't know. Well, but then you're right. That Falcons job, they've got a really young, talented offense, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. A good enough defense, I would say, with some of the pieces that are there. And, if they can just put it all together, figure out their quarterback situation, because are they going to stick with Cousins? Is Penix still going to be the guy? Maybe they draft another quarterback this year. We'll see where they are in the mid-tier. Who knows? But interesting to see where they go, I think.
Very interesting.
Arizona. Now, speaking of quarterbacks that might not be on that team anymore, might be, better off playing Call of Duty or whatever video game is out there. Jonathan Gannon got the old heave-ho as well, because this season was the worst season in Arizona Cardinals history by a number of metrics, including the first time ever they finished with 14 losses in a season. 3-14 to end the year. 15-36 tenure for Gannon. The 7th worst winning percentage in NFL history by a coach who is man assignment for at least 50 games. He finishes his career with a 294 win percentage. I mean,
you know that meme, the James Franco meme, when he's about to he looks over at the guy and goes, first time. As a Jets fan, that's how I feel for your Cardinals fans right now.
Yeah.
Welcome.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one there for Arizona. I mean, there's questions about, Kyler Murray. There's questions about, their running back room. Trey Benson was hurt for most of the year. They have one of the best tight ends in the league in Trey McBride, who did win the Fantasy League Championship. Thank you for that, Trey McBride. Your jersey's in the mail, no question about it. But, again, like what things we're talking about with Arizona, the defensive players, Zaven Collins, Budda Baker, these are guys who probably should be off of Arizona and be elsewhere. But it just never worked for Jonathan Gannon there. And I think, it all goes back to that Hard Knocks video with the who drove here, who rode the bus. It just never seemed it was never a good culture fit in Arizona. And don't get me wrong, they had some decent games, but the overall product left a lot to be desired, Justin.
A lot to be desired. It does not help that Kyler has been perpetually hurt during his tenure. He's missed a good amount of games, but you got to find other ways to be competitive at the very least. And I don't remember the last time I saw an Arizona Cardinals game that was competitive.
Yeah.
At least not on that mattered.
That's true. We mentioned names that were, possible for them. Kubiak, Joseph, Nagy, Salah, Weaver. The one interesting one, Thomas Brown, the Patriots tight end coach.
That's another interesting thing.
Yeah.
I guess they do have good tight end play, but
yeah. I mean, why not try and help him out there? But, Arizona's going to go into next year with a top 4 pick. Not really sure where they're going to be going, to be honest with you. Somehow Monty Ossenfort stays alive and keeps his job. I don't know how, but he does. Kind of surprised that they didn't, for a laugh, reach out to Cliff Kingsbury. But, that's, I guess, for a reason they didn't want to do that. I don't know. So let's switch over now to the AFC East, and let's talk about a team that we've been calling for his firing for a bit. Someone that you know quite well, Mike McDaniel, is done in Miami. Go ahead, Justin. I
wasn't calling for it. I think that he had some bad injury history also. The GM didn't really help him because they never really got players that could stay healthy or stay on the field. So, I mean, between Jalen Phillips and all the Tua injuries, and they had lineman injuries, and they had running back injuries, and the Tyreek went down. Waddle was perpetually out. Like, it's hard to make an offense click to really, if you guys don't have healthy players. And then if you don't have healthy players, you're on and then immediately off the field, and all of a sudden your defense is struggling now. So it really works in a lot of different ways that, clearly didn't work out for them.
McDaniel, his first 2 seasons, 9-8, 11-6. They didn't win the division, which they haven't done in 25 years. Mm-hmm. They got to the playoffs, but didn't win a playoff game. And then the last few years, 8, 9, 7, and 10. And it just, at some point, if you're the Dolphins, it's time to cut bait on Tua. I mean, Quinn Ewers was fine to end the season. I don't think he'll be the end-all and be-all, but you can't run it back with Tua, especially if McDaniel's no longer there and you have a new coach coming in, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta definitely make sure that you're on the same level about this with ownership before you take that job. But you're right. I don't imagine a scenario where they end up keeping him.
Yeah. It's quite unfortunate because he was somebody that obviously a high draft pick, somebody that a lot of people coveted, a lot of teams loved. Interestingly enough, the Dolphins only have, according to Pro Football Rumors, 1 rumored candidate. So let's just open up the wound right now. Let's talk about it. The guy who's the front runner for everybody at this point, John Harbaugh, Baltimore Ravens. Ravens, since they flew the coop from Cleveland and went to Baltimore, have only had 3 head coaches in their career. Ted Marchibroda the first couple seasons, Brian Billick from 97 to 04, I want to say, and then Harbaugh, or 06, and then Harbaugh for the last 18-plus years.
It's a good question.
After this past, and here's the thing. Like, I like John Harbaugh as a head coach. I think he's a great, head coach, and he has had success, but he's a head coach in the wrong time because I think because of the advent of social media and the fact that you're seeing all these memes and all these posts about how how many fourth quarter collapses the Ravens have had, which isn't truly on him, but it's kind of on him as a head coach to not finish out the games.
I mean, they expected more. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. He's got the multiple-time MVP as his quarterback. They have a Hall of Famer now running the ball like he's freaking 27 again. Like it would have made sense to come up with a quality product, and clearly, they missed the mark.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this one's surprising to me because obviously you're not going to get rid of Lamar Jackson as your quarterback, for a new head coach. You're not going to get rid of Derrick Henry. What strikes me as interesting, though, is kind of how this went down. If you believe some of like the dirt sheet reports, what they're saying is that the front office did not want to fire Harbaugh.
It was all the owner, supposedly.
The owner decided that it was time to cut bait. And now Baltimore's in a really weird position, I would think. I mean, the names we talked about are the names that are heavily featured there. There are a couple of other ones, Kingsbury, Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator, which is interesting only because the Chargers have the Ravens' old player personnel director as their GM and Joe Ortiz. So it's interesting that they might try and poach from there. But I don't know, Justin, to me, of the 8 that we have, including the Giants and the Titans, I feel like this job might be the most interesting for a new head coach to walk into because of the personnel that's there.
Well, I mean, it's always nice to walk into an offense that has Zay Flowers and Jacoby Myers and two-time MVP Lamar Jackson and freaking Derrick Henry. That's a pretty solid offensive room to walk into every morning.
I'd say so. But where would the Ravens need to improve, do you think, on defense? Or because let's call it one of this here. I believe this, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I believe this to be the truth. The loser of that Sunday night game, their head coach was getting fired.
Yeah, a lot of people said that. I think Tomlin was probably safe.
Okay.
I mean, it would have depended on the fashion in which he lost. If they got really wrecked by the Ravens, then he probably would have gotten fired.
Yeah.
But I think that he probably has a little bit more leeway than most coaches do, even coaches in that situation.
It's true.
I mean, they've kept him around for so long.
Yeah. And he is friend of the show, of course.
Of course.
But where would you think the Ravens might need to improve in order to kind of reclaim whatever? Because remember, this was a team that for a few years had been fighting for that number 1 overall seed, had been a number 1 overall seed. Not that long ago was in the AFC title game.
Well, look, they have to fix the defense, I think, is the most important thing. I mean, everyone could, hop on a freaking hop into a Corvette and speed down the road, but when you got to stop because you're in the right spot, it's not so easy to control. So their secondary has been horrendous. Obviously, you want to keep the offense rolling, so you might just give a little bit more leeway to an offensive coordinator or maybe Lamar when running your new offense. But really, what needs to be fixed is that defense.
Yeah, I think they needed a training staff as well because it reminds me of the Mets when Ray Ramirez was the trainer that everybody got hurt.
Yep.
Everyone's getting hurt for the Ravens too. That the only thing that hurts about this offseason, I kind of feel bad for Kevin Stefanski now because he gets fired as the Browns head coach by an ownership group that we've talked about in years past that have been mercurial at best. Stefanski's a good head coach when you consider the fact that his winning percentage, even though it's sub 500, it's still the best winning percentage in Browns history of the new Browns. This is the 2-time coach of the year and probably would be the number 1 candidate were it not for the fact that John Harbaugh just came out. But, I mean, I can see why a lot of teams want to covet Stefanski as a potential head coaching hire. Wouldn't you, Justin?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, again, he had didn't have a good record there, but he had some decent wins, and he had that team playing for him. And, I mean, there were days when they didn't have Myles Garrett and everything, so, but he pulled through.
Yeah.
They were a pretty solid team at times. Unfortunately, there was just something that they couldn't put it together consistently, and I think that's what really cost him his job.
That's fair. I mean, if you go to that team, you've got to figure out what you're doing at quarterback. I mean, you have a good running back if when Judkins gets healthy because he was a bruiser this year.
We haven't really seen a lot of Judkins either. I mean, you want to assume that he's going to be that guy, but you need more than 6 games.
That's true. That's very true. And much like how the Browns are just weird normally, their coaching list, it's an oddball list. I will tell you this. I mean, Harbaugh's on it, McDaniel's on it, but then the names just go into the, For example, Aiden Durd, the Seahawks defensive coordinator, is on this list.
I mean, in theory, they've been good, right?
Yeah, but that's not a name that anybody really knows. Is what it's kind of more my point.
I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, Todd Monken, the Ravens O coordinator, is on this list. Dan Pitcher, the Bengals O coordinator, is also on this list.
I don't know why you'd want anyone from the Bengals.
I agree. And the last two, this is the one that I think is interesting. They're the only team that I've seen that have gone internal. Tommy Reese and Jim Schwartz are getting the interviews. They're current O&D coordinators.
I saw Jim Schwartz going for one.
I was like, didn't Jim Schwartz coach this team before at some point? I don't know. But and they might have. It's interesting to me though to go through and look through all of that. But we'll see where these coaches end up getting hired here as we're going along. But let's move on because it's wild card weekend. We got some fun games to talk about briefly, just because we're in a sprint mode here. I want to make sure that we get all this kind of taken care of here. You know what, Justin? I'm going to ask you this: what games are you looking forward to this weekend? What are you kind of excited for?
Well, I think Jags Bills is going to be an excellent game, assuming it's not an absolute blowout. But I do have some faith that game is going to be a very interesting game, one of the better games of the year. Obviously, the rematch between the Packers and the Bears is must-see TV on Saturday at 8 p.m. And I would say those are probably my top two. Chargers Patriots are going to be good too because the Patriots didn't really have a huge number of wins against double-digit win teams.
Yep.
It didn't play anyone at that point. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting weekend, I think.
I think so. Niners-Eagles to me is also going to be an interesting one, just because,
NFC Championship rematch.
It will. And I mean, the Niners were a win away from being the 1 seed, where the Eagles have kind of been hit or miss this season at best.
They have been, but they've kept it just consistent enough to obviously stay, at the top of those standings.
Do you see any bigger, higher seeds like pulling off upsets against the home teams this weekend?
Upsets. I don't know.
The 4 or 5 games I'm not counting because those are kind of toss-ups. In fact, by the way, the Rams are favored by 10.5 according to our friends at
who is it now? It's
DraftKings, isn't it?
DraftKings, yes.
Yeah.
I was about to say Caesars again.
So
Caesars.
I know. The Rams are favored by 10.5. That's the biggest spread. Funnily enough, the Packers are a 1.5 point favorite on the Bears. Money line is even. The Bills are a 1.5 point favorite on Jacksonville. I guess that's experience versus success. And
I would assume so.
And then the Texans are a 3 point favorite over the Steelers, probably because of the way that season ended for Pittsburgh. I mean, I don't know. To me, I think it's interesting. Like I said, I could see the Packers winning in Chicago. Just because one of the things that we always talk about is that it's always hard to beat a team 3 times or play a team 3 times. When you're doing divisional foes. So Packers and Bears are going to fight again. I can see the Packers winning, especially if their plucky backup quarterback Jordan Love comes through at the end. I don't know if you saw that. There was some random parody tweet that said, "Oh, Malik Willis isn't playing. Let's rely on their backup Jordan Love," which is great. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, San Francisco, Philadelphia could really be interesting to me. The Chargers, like you said, the Chargers might pull some interesting schemes there on New England. I don't know. I think
it's going to be a better game than some people realize.
I agree with that. I mean, I can't really foresee any of these games being stinkers. Like I said, the Rams-Panthers one, I think the line will hold. And I think it won't be a bad game because that Rams offense, you love seeing what they can do.
And now they're all healthy, thankfully.
Exactly. I don't know if there's any injury designations. I know Byron Young got a little banged up in the last game for the Rams, so I'm not sure how he is. But again, I mean, let's just call it what it is here. I'm sorry that I have to do this, but I have to do it because it bears repeating. Bryce Young is not an NFL quarterback. Okay? Like, he's just not. You can't complete 14 passes for 54 yards in this league and expect to do anything.
I don't know. The Jets seem to find like 12 of those guys.
Well, I mean, listen, I didn't want to say it. I'm glad you did instead, but that's neither here nor there. So it's going to be a fun weekend of wild card. You know, a lot of craziness going on. It's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Justin, let's make our predictions. Like I said, we're sprinting through this one because I'm sure next week we'll have a lot more to talk about here. Let's start with the 4:30 game on Saturday. I think you and I are both going to go in the same direction here. Rams-Panthers.
That's got to be Rams.
It's got to be. I mean, the only way I could see the Panthers winning this game would be if Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback for the Rams. And even then, I give the Rams a fighting chance.
Yeah, I was going to say, someone needs to go down.
Yeah. I said big game from Kyron Williams here. I think the Rams get to Bryce Young and sack him maybe 5 or 6 times. The line holds. I'd take the points with the Rams here on this one. Packers-Bears, Saturday night on Amazon Prime. Is this now Michael's game? Because this is when I need to go to sleep at night.
I assume so.
All right. So Packers-Bears. Packers-Bears in Chicago on Saturday night. Weather is predicted to be freezing rain and 33 degrees.
In Chicago. Interesting. Who's favored?
Green Bay by 1.5. But I'll tell you something. I think that weather favors Chicago more because I think their running attack's a little bit better. DeAndre Swift has had a resurgent season, and Kyle Manon guy has been a really good foil for him. They have a really good 2 tight end set in Kmet and Loveland. I don't know. I think it favors the Bears more.
And it doesn't help that Green Bay is still pretty banged up.
That's true. But if any team can be a 7 seed and be a 2 seed, from experience we know it's Green Bay.
That's true.
Just ask Dak Prescott. You know, he can tell you that for a fact.
I don't see it this time. I think there's too many factors weighing against them.
I agree with that. I think it's going to be I think Chicago's going to take this one pretty easily. But again, wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay keeps it competitive. Just please, Cairo Santos, kick the ball through the uprights and not around the uprights. We don't need Cody Parkey again. Mm-hmm. Buffalo, Jacksonville on Sunday. Got to be honest with you here. I think Buffalo comes into this with a big chip on their shoulder, disappointed with how the season ended. They, especially in a year where you don't have Jackson, Burrow, or Mahomes as
I know this would have been the perfect year to really get them, far into the playoffs.
It would be the perfect year for that, but they have to go into Jacksonville, where arguably the hottest quarterback in the league right now, Trevor Lawrence, who's been on a tear the last 9 weeks. Jaguars are a pretty tough team.
Honestly, I think that a lot of people, they flew really far, under the radar this year. I feel like a lot of people didn't realize the kind of season they had. But yeah. They were a force to be reckoned with at certain points. Not the whole season. There was definitely some inconsistencies there, but they were definitely a force to be reckoned with at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's tough. See, if I go the way that I want to go with this one, Jacksonville's winning and Sean McDermott's going to be fired after this game.
That's not going to happen.
I mean, come on. You have all these expectations, and one of you have to show for it. I got Stefanski fired. I got Harbaugh fired. I got McDaniel fired. All I'm saying is LaFleur needs to go, and then McDermott needs to go, and I get my 5-pack. Give me something.
I just don't see it. What do you mean give you something? You got 3 out of 5 so far.
I mean, I did
get 3 about.
I did get 3. See, here's the problem. I got 3 out of 5. I got 3 out of 5, but every year you can only pick one, and that one gets fired. You have a 100% rate at firing head
I
coaches.
didn't choose anyone this year.
Well, no, but in years past, I mean, Matt Rule was.
I mean, I probably would have chose McDaniels.
Probably.
So I probably would have been right.
You probably would have been.
But
I would say.
Yeah, starting with Matt Rule, I had 100% fire rate.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And then Jerg finally got Dennis Allen fired last year. That's all it is. You think Buffalo or Jacksonville in this one? What do you think?
It's got to be Jack. It's got to be Buffalo. I mean,
okay.
I don't think the stadium's going to be all that much of an advantage for Jacksonville.
No,
it's got to be Buffalo, right?
Yeah, I'm in line to agree with you, but
This does kind of feel like the season that Buffalo has felt like kind of more of a failure than they usually do.
They have
but this is also the year if they're going to capitalize, this is the year they have to capitalize.
The only thing that I'm going to say too is that I think this is the worst matchup for them because Jacksonville only needs to take a kickoff down, touchback at the 35 and take it 20 yards.
Run the ball well and play the defense.
But they only need to go 20, 25 yards before Cam Little winds up his leg and hits from 70. What's going to happen. So
it's also true.
I don't know. I could see Jacksonville pulling this one off. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go for the Jags on this one. The 4:30 game on Sunday, San Francisco at Philadelphia. This is the tough one.
This is probably the toughest one of the week.
I would say it's the toughest one. I think San Francisco offense is good, but they were stymied by a good Seattle defense. If you can put on a clinic against them, you can bottle up McCaffrey and figure out a way to stop Kittle. What are they?
Do the Eagles have that good of a defense? I don't know.
I don't think they do. I think you're right. I don't think they do, but I'm saying that's the blueprint. Seattle showed you how to do it. So,
that is the kind of game that the Eagles do like to play.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, to me, I would get Devontae Smith more involved or AJ Brown more involved in the offense. That's just me, But Philadelphia's going to do what Philadelphia's going to do.
If they lose, that might be someone that's fired. They might have a new coordinator in Philadelphia.
I would think so. I mean, Patullo's been just all over the place in Philly. I feel bad for him in some ways, but
big shoes to fill.
Huge. And again, that's one of those tough ones where it's you want to give him a chance to kind of feel his way in there, but after winning a Super Bowl after Kellen Moore. And by the way, I said this last week with Jared. Kellen Moore deserves the Coach of the Year votes. He does. Because to take a team that nobody thought was going to do anything to 7-10, and the fact that they may have found their quarterback in Tyler Shuck, give him all props. Kellen Moore deserves a little more credit. And who's kicking themselves right now? The Dallas Cowboys, which is why they'll forever be on the Rand podium. You had Kellen Moore right there. And
he wanted the job.
He wanted it. You decided not to hire him. Yeah, he went to the Chargers, and it was a disaster, but that's Brandon Staley's fault. But look where he is now. All I'm saying. Look where he is now. Give me San Francisco in this one. I think the West Coast to East Coast might be a little tricky for them, but you know what? I think they've got a good enough offense. I think you're right. I think defensively, Philadelphia can't do enough to stop them. High scoring game, I feel like, but I'll take San Francisco in this one.
I'm gonna do the opposite. I always ride the birds somehow, and I'll stick with them this time.
Well, you are the Pick Challenge champion for a reason, so that makes sense. There we go. Sunday night game on NBC and Peacock, of course. The 14-3 New England Patriots. What are we in 2002? 14-3 New England Patriots. What is this? Tom Brady's era versus the 11-6 LA Chargers. It's not Brady versus Rivers. It's Drake May versus Justin Herbert. And listen, the Patriots had a phenomenal season. But at some point, Justin Herbert has to win a playoff game, right? At some point, he has to. Game? I don't know if he has.
I thought maybe he had one.
He may have won one, but he has to win one of consequence. And this is, as much as we say Josh Allen has to finally get there, Justin Herbert, right now Justin Herbert is
there is a wall he's got to. If we want to keep considering him to be, a young, up-and-coming top talent in the league, he needs to start winning some of these big games. So this is definitely a must-win for him.
It is.
I think I think I'm leaning more towards the Chargers, and maybe I'm biased, but
It might be.
I don't know. The Patriots, they had a really good season, but they played a lot of bad teams, and it's just interesting to see what they are going to be able to do against a team that really has a sort of consistency, which is a strange thing to say about the Chargers because there's also like a lot of inconsistency with that team. But like,
Yeah.
there's a baseline level of how good they play every game, and it is better than some of these bad teams.
Yeah.
So we'll see which Chargers team shows up. Obviously, it's hard to pick the Chargers going cross country into cold weather against a team that's got 14 wins. But I gotta say, I think I'm feeling more like a supercharger than a Patriot.
I will say this. This is going to be a fun one because this is a battle between the number 3 ranked offense in the league from this season and the number 5 ranked defense in the league this season. I think a lot of people sleep on the Chargers defense, and that's a little tricky to do because they may not have the pieces that you remember, but there are guys on this team that are still really good. I think Henley is a great leader, the linebacker over there. Tuipulotu had 13 sacks this season for them out of nowhere. Tony Jefferson's a really good piece. They've got some good, talented players there. I mean, Khalil Mack is also on there, I believe. I don't know if he's playing, but he's hurt. But still, I mean, he can still lead from the bench and whatnot. This Chargers team, they need a signature performance from Ladd McConkey and their wide receiver core. I think they have any chance here. I'll go New England only because I think it's a little too much to overcome. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers win this game either. I wouldn't be surprised with that at all. And now we get to the Monday night game. Somehow this is the Monday night game. I don't really know how. This is why the NFL is weird this year. You had it lined up to have the Texans be in the 4:30 slot on Saturday like they've always been every time they've made the playoffs. And then the NFL's like, you guys can go to the Monday night game. But it is, Justin, the best defense in the league against let's call them what they are, as much as Mike Tomlin's a good friend of the show and a good friend of mine, a mediocre offense. And that might be even saying it, might even be, putting it politely, mediocre. Yes, they'll get DK Metcalf back for this game after the suspensions. But what have the Steelers shown you this year that it gives you any confidence going up against this really tough Houston Texans defense?
Well, turnovers are going to be a major part of this because the Houston Texans force a lot of turnovers as a defense. But also, I think it's going to come down a lot to kicking. I think that's just the way that these teams are built. Both offenses are going to be difficult to get going and get started. The run game is going to be extremely important because it's going to help the time of possession battle. And you're going to want to make sure you're in position to give your dude, a shot at kicking it.
Yep.
And whoever can, I think, do that the most is likely going to win this game.
For the Texans, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson combined for 27 sacks this season. And you know what? Let's give credit where it's due here. You don't hear a lot of this guy, but I'm sure in fantasy leagues you did. Woody Marks coming out of nowhere, 703 yards, rookie. Mixon goes down. Chubb isn't himself. This guy steps into a big role and filled it admirably. Didn't get the touchdown numbers, but you know what? 700 yards in a rookie season kind of reminds you of Dameon Pierce a little bit. But, Stroud didn't have his best season, but I like Houston in this one, though. I think Pittsburgh used up all their energy in the Baltimore game. I know it's a week layoff, but I like the Texans. I know going into Heinz Field, which I'll never call Acrisure Stadium because it's not Acrisure Stadium, it's Heinz Field. It'll be Heinz Field. Thank you. Is a tough place to play. Maybe one of the toughest places to play in the NFL.
And this is the best quarterback that the Steelers have had since Roethlisberger.
Yeah. But I think the Texans
so
are
hard
up to it.
Against them being a one and done team. You know what I mean?
It is. And somebody on this podcast, I think you know the guy, picked the Steelers and the Packers to be in the Super Bowl, and my dream is still alive. So
I don't even remember who my Super Bowl teams were, but I can't imagine my dream is alive.
I'll have to go back and look at it, when we have some time. But obviously, that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. Are you going to be able to watch all of the games this weekend, Justin, or are you going to be?
I hope so. I know I have some stuff going on, but the goal and the plan is to watch them all.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I unfortunately am quite busy all weekend, as I'm sure you're aware. My first class is on Saturday that I'm teaching, so that'll be a lot of fun. And I have games all weekend that I'll be working as well. So I might be looking at the Monday night game. Yay.
You have to change your name to Dr. Professor Podfather.
Dr. Professor Podfather, yes. That's going to be a long Twitter handle to work on, unfortunately. But we'll get there. That's the sprint. We're done. I think we did a good job. And I think that's all she wrote. You know, it's 9:30 at night, and I think the hosts want to go to bed. We did our due diligence. We did our duty. Jurg, this is for you.
Going to bed. I'm going back out to party. 2025. Pick Challenge champion.
Oh, well, that's true. That's true. Incidentally, have you thought about what trophy you're going to be getting for yourself?
I did think about it.
Okay.
I haven't ordered it yet, but we'll see.
It'll be a surprise?
It'll be a surprise.
All right. I hope you'll reveal it on the show whenever we get to that point, right?
I will.
Good. Excellent. All right. That's it for us on episode 166. Playoffs in, coaches out. Rick, Justin, we are out as well. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the fun. Fun football and chaos. That's how it goes. Have a good one, boys. Take care of yourselves.